Welcome to the Flagrant 2 podcast, the inaugural preview episode of the Flagrant 2 podcast. I will be your host, Kyle Fleeger, writer for valleyofthesuns.com, and I am with Cody Fincher, also a writer for valleyofthesuns.com. We will be bringing you podcasts twice a week. Tuesdays, we're going to highlight specifically the Suns news and what's going on with the Phoenix Suns. Today we're going to cover the Summer League. And then Thursdays, we will do a live NBA podcast that discusses the league in general, the happenings around the NBA, and maybe some of the controversial topics or rumors. So, before we get into it, I myself have been writing for Valley of the Suns for a few months now. I previously started a website called ifiredterryporter.com. Switched the name of the website to sunsdebate.com at the urging of the Phoenix Suns communications department, and was credentialed to have that site be a part of the Suns official media. So I am now writing for Valley of the Suns. We're excited to do this podcast. Cody, why don't you let the people know a little bit about your background?
All right. Hey, Kyle. Nice to be with you on this podcast. I'm excited about it. I've been writing for Valley of the Suns just for this month. Actually, I just started. But I just graduated from Arizona State in journalism, Cronkite. Just kind of looking to get myself out there, and covering sports is probably one of my favorite things to do. I'm not good enough to play any of them, so I figured talking about it would be a good way to go. So yeah, excited to be here.
Well, yeah, it's great to have you with us, and the School of Journalism over there at ASU is excellent. I myself went to ASU, so a couple of Sun Devils here might play into the bias that we have over the next couple of forks up all day long. So now, what I wanted to get into first, Cody, is the Suns Summer League. You know, the Suns today played against the Miami Heat in what was a revenge game from the Suns' loss a couple of days ago, and they looked better. And I wanted to get your take on what you've thought of the Suns for the Summer League so far.
I've been impressed with their guys, most notably their three draft picks from the 2016 NBA draft, Dragan Bender, Marquise Chris, and, especially Tyler Ulis. Tyler Ulis has showed me that, he can definitely run the floor. He can definitely run this team. He has enough ability to be able to do that. And he can score, and he reminds me of Isaiah Thomas a lot. I don't know if you agree with that, but he's so short, but he knows how to put the ball in the hole. Another guy that has been intriguing me so far is Alan Williams.
Yeah.
He's averaging before today's game, averaging a double-double, I believe. 15.3 points, 11.3 rebounds going into today's game. So he's been really solid for the Suns, and I like seeing Devin Booker there too. Before he heads off to Rio, he's already becoming a leader at 20 years old. So it's kind of, it's kind of amazing that we're sitting here in our mid 20s, and he's 19 going on 20 and making millions of dollars and leading an NBA franchise. But yeah, so I've seen good things from the young guys. Obviously a lot of stuff that needs to be worked on. But overall, they've been playing pretty well. And as you said today, they, advanced to, I believe, the quarterfinals now of the Las Vegas tournament. So yeah, it's going pretty well for them.
Yeah. And let's unpack a little bit of that. First, Alan Williams, not only is he playing great, but I think his mom was made police chief in Phoenix today. So
yeah, she was. I had no idea.
For the Williams family, and I'm sure they are mutually proud of each other.
Oh yeah.
Williams has been, I think he's going to make the team, which I think is as big of a compliment as you can give a guy coming out of Summer League in his position. I heard Earl Watson say today that Tyler Ulis is definitely going to make the team. And I think the front office knew that it was going to go this way. I think Suns fans, myself included, are shocked with how well Tyler Ulis has handled himself and just how far and away ahead of the field of other point guards he seems to be. But they fully guaranteed his contract for a reason. I think that was a sign they expected him to be good. I think that he is fulfilled and far surpassed those expectations. I want to say going into the game today, he had 19 assists and 2 turnovers. He scored 20 points and had 8 assists and 3 rebounds this afternoon. So I have been super impressed that his game isn't gimmicky. And where I think you're right about him and Isaiah Thomas is they are both excellent at cutting off their defender's angle and jumping horizontally almost into a defender to create contact and either get a layup or be able to hesitate and draw a foul or shoot a jump shot from mid-range, which Ulis really had going for him today. Where I see the differences is it's a lot more natural of a passer and a lot more of a natural floor general than Isaiah Thomas. So I think he's got a little bit more diversity to his game, which I really liked. Let me ask you what you thought of Dragon Bender. Today he had 10 points, 9 rebounds. He went, I want to say, 3 for 11 from the field. He did make a couple of threes, but he looks really fluid out there.
Yeah, he's definitely athletic for a guy of his size at 7'1", I believe he's listed. Just one thing that I noticed just looking at him without any background or anything, he needs to work on his ball handling a little bit. It seems like he turns it over quite a bit. And when there's some loose balls, he can't seem to corral it, maybe because he has to bend over so far. I don't know. He's really tall. But I think his shot is it's pretty. It's a high release. He has a quick release on it. There's not a lot of guys that can get in his face because he's so tall. I think the best thing about Dragan Bender, and I said this when they first drafted him, I really love how athletic he is.
Yeah.
For a big guy, that he can run the floor pretty easily. Like a lot of big guys in the NBA, just basketball in general, when they're that tall, they look like they're kind of lumbering and laboring down the court back and forth. But he doesn't seem to be that way. He seems to be able to run with speed and able to finish around the rim, or he's really, he has a finesse touch around the rim as well as that jump shot. So, I like Dragan Bender a lot. I was happy when the Suns picked him at number 4, not even knowing they were going to get Marquise Chris later on. But
yeah, that was a great pickup for them.
So, yeah.
It's cool to see a guy grab his size, grab and go, and just get the rebound and take off up the court. I mean, it is a sight to see.
Yeah.
It's something that I've noticed some of the other experts and writers pay specific attention to. He's been a bright spot, and Chris being out today with the flu made me really curious to see how he was going to play. But they asked Earl Watson about it, and he said that he is absolutely going to play the 3 position, that he expects him to be defending small forwards, that they think he's doing well. To your point on his offensive game with the ball handling, I think the issue is, too, he's relying on one move. He pump fakes and drives almost exclusively, and doesn't have a lot of diversity with his ball handling outside that move. So I think over the course of games, defenders sort of get used to where he's going to go. And he's 18 years old. So, he'll develop more moves. But for right now, he's almost a one-trick pony. He shoots it from the outside and he head fakes and drives left,
I think one of the big advantages is his young age, because he has so much time to develop, especially if he sticks around with the Phoenix Suns. He's already been a professional since he was, I believe, 12, right? Somewhere around that age.
12
and
14.
Yeah, something like that. He was playing professional basketball, so he's already got that mentality. And I just think, it's hard for especially European players to come over here and transfer their game to the NBA, because it's a different ball game for sure. But I think he's definitely got the ability, and I think he has a high ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things I wanted to touch on that I also saw in Summer League was just some of the other players, because the Suns are going to play on Saturday at 3 p.m. against the winner of the Jazz-Denver game. That game's probably either done or finishing right about now. I'll have to look that up. But I think that the team that they're going to go up against either way presents a lot of fun matchups. I think specifically if they play Denver, seeing Emmanuel Mudiay, who's just so athletic, go up against Tyler Ulis is a really interesting matchup because it's going to show whether or not Ulis is going to be able to handle the size of just some of the point guards in the league, like your John Walls, your Russell Westbrooks, these 6'3", 6'4", well-built guys, being 5'9" and 150 pounds is going to be difficult. So, what other teams have you liked? I mean, I think Moudier's played really well, and that'll be an interesting matchup. But what other teams have you seen in Summer League that maybe you caught your attention?
Well, just to answer your question, the Nuggets Jazz game is over. The Jazz lost to the Nuggets 80-60.
Oof.
So by 20 points, they got that game handed to them. Mudiay actually didn't even play in that game, so
maybe they're not going to play him the rest of the tournament.
Yeah. But Murray had 20 points, by far leading the way, and then Jimmer Fredette had 12. So we'll see.
Jimmer really enjoys being the oldest dude at Summer League.
Oh my gosh, he was 3 for 11 from the field. So so we'll see about that. I really like the guys from Miami. I think they have a lot of young talent. Obviously, Justice Winslow is going to be a good NBA player. But just in terms from the guys I saw today, Rudd, that dude was lighting up the scoreboard today. He had 24 points. But I think Miami is probably in a better spot than a lot of people think without Dwayne Wade. I don't think they're gonna slide back to the last spot in the Eastern. With these young guys, I think that they're gonna be okay.
I think you're right about that. I think Miami. I think it really comes down to Bosch, to be honest. I think that those Suns Heat picks are going to be extremely valuable because if Chris Bosch doesn't get back on the court healthy, I don't think Goran Dragic and Hassan Whiteside are a playoff team.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that just two of those guys can get them to where they want to go. I think they're going to definitely need Chris Bosch, and just to add another player to your question before, how can we not talk about and not talk about Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons has been pretty spectacular for the Sixers, looking like they're trying to turn him into another LeBron James.
Yes.
Bringing him up the floor, handling the ball with slick behind the back passes. Ben Simmons, I think he's got to work on that a little bit, but I think he's incredible talent.
He's a passer that
he does.
He passes as well as LeBron does, and he pulls off some of the same really athletic passes across the court and swing passes that only LeBron can pull off right now, or very few people besides LeBron can pull off. I think he has been hesitant to shoot, which was a big question mark. He will continue to be hesitant to shoot. I think that's why they signed Bayless, to put a guy next to him who they fully do not expect to bring the ball up the court and don't want the ball in his hands. They want him off the ball as much as possible. And so that'll be nice for Simmons to be the primary ball handler, but he has to learn to shoot. I mean, if he's going to unlock his potential, he has to learn to shoot. He has to be able to at least shoot. Like, he has to try to shoot from far away. He has to at least make the defenders feel like he might pull up from deep, because otherwise he really limits his offensive potential and makes it really easy to guard him.
Yeah, especially if he's going to be the ball handler primarily. He's going to have those situations where he's going to come off the screen and have a decent look at the basket, but is he going to shoot it? That's going to be the question. So he'll have to answer that question sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. And also in Summer League, I liked watching the matchup of Jaylen Brown. I think his athleticism has been on display for the Celtics. He's going to fit in really well on that team. But he can't shoot either. And And the Celtics, despite all of their great athleticism and talent on defense, they don't have very many people that can shoot the ball. And I think you're going to see Al Horford pull up for like 200 threes this year.
Yeah, because even in Atlanta, we saw Paul Millsap kind of turn into that guy where he became a 3-point shooter. So you might even see Al Horford leaving Atlanta and becoming that stretch five, because he can shoot it a little bit, but he's going to have to find some range because, and I was speaking of Jaylen Brown. I think the Celtics screwed that up in the first round. I think they were banking on just trading that pick, and then it didn't happen. And they were trying to get Jimmy Butler and all these guys. They were trying to trade with Philadelphia because Philadelphia wanted Chris Dunn, and it just didn't happen. So they're like, oh, what do we do? And then so they just kind of just drafted the best player available at that time, basically.
Yeah, and I think they might be wrong about who that is. I know I was sitting in the Suns arena during the draft covering it for Valley of the Suns, and the way they have you positioned to write is directly underneath this staircase where above is the conference room where the war room was happening. And as soon as the Celtics drafted Jaylen Brown, you could hear the applause from upstairs.
Oh, I heard about that.
So it was pretty cool. And then the same thing when all of a sudden the 8th pick came around and you hear like this clapping from upstairs, I tweeted about it right away. I was just like, something just happened. The Suns are moving up in the Sacramento's pick. And it was just so neat to see them get the people they want. Sarver came down at one point, and I don't think I wrote about this, but Sarver came down at one point and said, you never, ever have things go as planned. And today they went better than that. And it just struck me. Like, he looked so happy when he came down the stairs. And Jaylen Brown versus Bender was actually a really interesting matchup, and versus Chris as well. I think where Jaylen Brown will succeed for them is a wing defender. I mean, he is going to lock people down. There were times where Marquise Chris tried to back him down, and Brown just pushed him off his spot and took the ball from him like a kid.
Yeah, he is a strong boy. He's got good size for that guard position, definitely. But I just like what you were saying. Things never go as planned. I think this is the first time that I can remember where the Phoenix Suns got the players they wanted, and they were in good spots to get the players they wanted, because for so long they've been on the brink of making the playoffs in the 13-14 range, and you never, unless it's Devin Booker, you never get that franchise changing guy that late in the lottery. So I was pretty happy to see them get Bender, and then they pulled off that trade, and then Sacramento kind of butchered that. It ended up being okay for the Suns.
Yeah, it ended up being all right, and for Phoenix, and they pulled off what could end up being a really valuable move. Chris has a long way to go. So Bender. Ulis is probably the most polished of all of them. If Ulis was 5 inches taller, he might have been a top 10 pick in the draft. I mean, just his makeup, his skill set, he's dynamic out there. But let's talk a bit about some of the league news outside of Summer League, because only 3/10 of those players is going to actually play on an NBA roster this year, if that. So, obviously we're Suns guys. We write for a Suns website. I wrote up a piece for the site about Tim Duncan retiring. My sentiments were goodbye and good riddance. What did you think about Tim Duncan announcing his retirement and just the way he went about it?
I thought the way he went about announcing it was total Tim Duncan. No big press conference, no Kobe Bryant farewell tour. He just, I think it was a I think it was like a press release. He said, oh yeah, Tim Duncan is retiring. Basically just real simple, really Tim Duncan-like. For me, I'm obviously, like you said, we're Suns fans. So Tim Duncan has haunted our dreams for years.
Yep.
And, I have mad respect for Tim Duncan and what he's been able to do in the NBA. He is a 5-time champion. I believe it's 5 championships he has. And, he's probably one of the best power forwards to ever play the game. But I'm pretty happy to see him go. Just like I was kind of pretty happy to see Kobe Bryant retire as well. Just two guys that have plagued the Phoenix Suns since they entered the league. Kobe Bryant hitting those buzzer beaters in the playoffs, and Tim Duncan and his Spurs kicking the Suns out of the playoffs year after year. Robert Horry hip checking Steve Nash into the scorers table. I hate to bring that up. It makes me want to just, I don't know. It makes me so mad.
Tim Donaghy officiating the game.
Oh yeah. Come on. That jerk. But Yeah, Tim Duncan, this was the way that he was destined to go out. No big deal, no nothing. He might. I saw a joke on Twitter that said he might not even show up to his own press conference, and I think that's actually kind of believable.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget um Tim Duncan hitting that 3-pointer in the playoffs, something like he's never done before, at least that I saw from him.
He
He
had
hit
no
that 3-pointer.
threes
Yeah,
made in the
that's right.
season up until that point.
That's right. And then he steps outside the line and hits a 3 to sink the Suns. That's what started the Hack-a-Shack thing too, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That was
yeah,
the same
the
series
Spurs have been the thorn in our side for years, and Tim Duncan is one of those big thorns. But you can't deny how much of an impact he had in the NBA, how good of a player he was, and he's just a champion. He's a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes the Spurs harder to hate. Once Ginobili and Parker are gone, it's going to make them really hard to hate because the type of star they have now and Kawhi and LaMarcus, they're just such down to earth guys who don't overexpress themselves on the court. They don't have the same penchant for whining or flopping like I would love to talk about the Spurs having. That's not the way they play. And Kawhi Leonard's probably the quietest great player in the NBA. And it's hard to dislike that team. They just do it right. From R.C. Buford in management to Popovich to Duncan and the way that they have leadership. My main hope is that Tim Duncan is so aloof that he decides to retire to the Maldives or go back to the Virgin Islands. I don't want to see you on the sideline. I don't want to see you
Coach,
reminiscing.
please.
I don't want to listen to you talk to Reggie Miller about how
Right.
you both had success in the playoffs. I just don't need to hear you tell any stories, Tim Duncan, because most of those stories, they end with Suns heartbreak. So,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
so I'm excited to see him go. I wish Raja Bell clotheslined him on his way out, just like he did Kobe. I have no love for Tim Duncan, but I do have to say, he is one of the 10 best players ever. And I want to say he was a 15-time All-Star, 14-time All-NBA player. I mean, how can you argue with that? So it's going to be different to look over at the opposing sideline and not see him on it when we're playing the Spurs, that's for sure.
And they basically replaced Tim Duncan with another version of himself with Pau Gasol. He's almost the same exact player.
Yeah.
And it's just the Spurs just know what they're doing. By the way, I don't know if you saw it, but Ginobili's coming back, 1-year deal, $14 million. So he'll still be around.
Oh, good. Great. I think if we can get PETA to protest the Bat murders, and we might be able to get him out for the games. Ginobili, though, he's one of those players that I can't wait to see him go. He's too good.
Yeah, me too.
He's killed us too many times. That's one thing that I hope the young Suns brings with them is a rebirth without having had been tortured by the Spurs, so that they don't have any of that haunting them the way that some of the veterans had for the last 10, 15 years now. What do you think of the other big news, Kevin Durant joining the Pacific Division and making us have to play him one more time a year?
Well, I'm not excited for that, that's for sure, especially when he's rolling into town with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. But
oh my.
I figured that one of two things were going to happen. Either he was going to stay with the Thunder or he was going to go to Golden State. Because I think, the Golden State thing has been in the works for a while for him. But it's going to be – I'm going to try to make it to some Suns.
Uh-oh. You still there? All right. And what I believe he was getting into here was saying that he is looking forward to going some of the Suns' practices. I do believe that we are working to try and make it so that when we are able to go to practice, you as the Suns fans and readers out there will be able to also participate. We're real big on asking the fans what questions they want us to ask and what we can do to make sure that your voices are being heard and it'll be a lot of fun to do that. Now, as far as my opinions on Kevin Durant, my opinion on Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors is that it's doomed. That the Golden State Warriors may win all 82 games. I mean, I know the expectation is that by adding a piece, it's going to make it so that they might have some chemistry issues, they may have some dysfunction, but in reality, it just makes them devastating. If you just think about it from the perspective of, at one point, they were playing with Harrison Barnes at power forward, and now they're going to be playing with Kevin Durant at power forward. I mean, that's a sizable difference, absolutely. So, you there? You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Sorry about that.
You can just edit it later.
So, obviously, the big story so far this free agency is not Jared Dudley or Leandro Barbosa signing in Phoenix.
It's not?
I mean, for me, it is. I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of JD, and the Suns fans here should be really excited because he's great on social media and gives out a lot of cool free stuff and different opportunities. But, you know, I would have to say that the biggest free agent signing, Kevin Durant, taking his talents to Oakland and joining up with the 73 win Golden State Warriors joining us here in the Pacific Division. If you're a Suns fan, what do you think of that?
It's obviously a big deal if you're a Suns fan. You know, if you go to those games, you're probably going to be seeing the Suns versus an all-star lineup with Golden State. But, you know, I thought this was going to happen. Either Durant was going to stay with the Thunder or wind up with Golden State, because I didn't really see him going to Golden State. Obviously is the closest to winning a title, and that's what Durant is chasing right now, is a championship. But then again, I kind of see what the critics are saying. I understand it, because, you know, the Thunder were one game away from going to the NBA Finals to face the Cavs, and Golden State won 3 games in a row and then kicked them out of the playoffs. So a lot of people are, you know, obviously saying Kevin Durant just bandwagoning on the Warriors train and, you know, trying to get that championship for himself, doesn't really care, doesn't really want to try. I think, you know, obviously Durant has the right to do whatever he wants to do with his career, but I think it affects the NBA in a negative way, because there's basically 2 teams right now that are the clear-cut favorites to go to the finals, and it's the same teams that have been in the finals 2 years in a row, Golden State and Cleveland. And I think now it kind of makes the NBA a little bit more uncompetitive. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it makes the regular season very uninteresting.
Sure.
I think the playoffs will still be the playoffs. Obviously, seeing these teams against heightened competition will just be interesting in and of itself, whether or not they're the favorites. But I definitely think the regular season becomes a lot less fun from a viewer's perspective, because, you know, night in and night out, this team is going to be in the Western Conference Finals. Their Cavs are going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's almost a foregone conclusion they'll meet in the finals. And it takes away a lot of the allure of the regular season. But on the flip side of that, the reason and you're right, KD can do whatever he wants. And I'm all for players signing for as big of contracts as they possibly can, going wherever they want. I think the perception of these players as greedy, or how it affects their legacy, is something that changes with the wind in terms of the fans, and that players can't let that drive what motivates them. I think if Kevin Durant went 21 years in the Thunder's eyes, or under the Thunder flag, and never won a championship, and he wins a championship in Golden State and has a 15-year career, they're going to say his 15-year career was better, no matter how well statistically he did. And you can see that with players like John Stockton and Karl Malone. When NBA fans and other teams, executives or players rank the all-time greatest players, despite having statistically much better statistics than a lot of NBA players that are put above them. Karl Malone and John Stockton are always much lower on those lists than their statistics would dictate. And so that's going to be tough for KD to have to deal with those haters, but I understand why he didn't let it affect his decision. What I would like to get your perspective on, though, is it possible that Kevin Durant put himself in a no-win situation? I mean, or a one outcome situation where they have to win the championship, right? They can't not win the championship. If they win 65 games, and they just won 73 with Harrison Barnes, now they're winning 65 with Kevin Durant. Every loss that happens quicker than they had the losses last year is going to raise the question of whether he's hurt their chemistry and made them worse, or made them different in a way that is going to ultimately lead to their demise. And for Kevin Durant, those are lofty. I mean, it's title or bust for sure in Golden State. And if they don't win the championship, that blame is going to come squarely on Kevin Durant's shoulders.
Yeah, I agree with that. And especially because, like you said, this Golden State team just set a record for wins in the regular season last year without Kevin Durant. If they do any worse, then, yeah, like you said, they're going to, speculate that it's his fault that they didn't do as well and all that. I kind of draw the comparison to when LeBron and Bosh teamed up with D Wade in Miami, and then they didn't win the championship that first year, and they were kind of, is LeBron James didn't get it done, blah, 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 blah. If the Warriors don't win the finals this year, then I think Kevin Durant is going to have to bear all that weight on himself. And because he's basically going to a team, and I think this is why a lot of people are giving him flack for going to Golden State, is because the Golden State Warriors, they don't really need Kevin Durant to win a championship. They've already won one 2 years ago without him. And last year they were so close to winning another one without Kevin Durant. And they technically, I mean, yeah, anyone would love Kevin Durant. I'm sure that even the Cavaliers maybe would have taken Kevin Durant if he wanted to go there. I don't know, probably not. LeBron runs the team.
They would have shipped Kevin Love out so fast.
Oh yeah, Kevin Love. But the Warriors didn't really need Kevin Durant. He needed the Warriors, I think, for himself. And I don't know I do agree with you that if they don't win the title, then he is going to be up a creek this offseason if they don't win, because that team has been to the finals 2 years in a row without him, won a championship in one of those two appearances without him, and almost won it last year.
Yeah.
So I with you. I think Kevin Durant, if he wins, great. All is well with Kevin Durant. He'll have his championship and he can try to win some more. But if they don't win, then I think he's going to be screwed a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's going to be the heat's going to come down. But let's not say that we don't understand.
I don't want to crown them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not trying to say that it wasn't smart. They're going to crush people. They're going to be devastating. It's the greatest assembly of talent ever. You're right that the way they're going to be judged is going to be similar to the Heat, but in terms of the quality of team that has been formed, it's entirely different. Bosh, Wade, and LeBron had never played together before. Most of the people on those teams were on the team playing with each other for the first time. Everyone on the team basically has already played with each other except Kevin Durant. And so he's going to fit in, who will get time to play with his own teammates in Klay Thompson and Draymond Green with Team USA. So, maybe they've already built some rapport and cohesion that way. But they're going to be devastating. I mean, they're going to be the ball in the lineup of death, which now I don't even know what to call it, the lineup of certain doom. I'm sure that people are going to come up with cool names for it. But the Curry, Thompson, Iguodala, Durant, Draymond Green lineup,
that's scary.
If you think Kevin Durant can replicate the defense he played in the playoffs this last year, and that's just who he's going to be now, because he's still young, 27 years old. LeBron developed his post game at like 27 years old and became a way more efficient player, decided to be more aggressive in the block. Maybe Kevin Durant takes that next step as a defender and decides that he wants to be defensively that engaged. He has the length to play the 4 or switch on 5s. So I think that team is going to be just I don't want to play it out like we're saying it's going to be boring. It's just there's an assumed outcome. And the only way it can be exciting is if they lose, because otherwise they're just meeting expectations, and it would be really hard for them to exceed expectations.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's how I felt, back when LeBron first went to Miami when they were facing the Mavericks. It was kind of just expected, even though, like you said, that team wasn't as good comparatively to this Golden State team. It was still pretty much understood that they were going to be in the finals and probably win the finals. And then when the Mavericks beat them in the finals, that was just so exciting, especially, the whole story with Dirk Nowitzki being there forever and everything. But the Miami Heat back then, they embraced that we are the villains of the NBA, mantra, and then people wanted them to lose. So it made people even more excited when they lost. But yeah, I agree with you that people are already crowning this Warriors team as the next NBA champions. And I think the only way that you're going to be excited if you're not a Golden State Warriors fan is if they lose.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things about their storyline is that they turned heel. I mean, they basically just switched the last 2 games of the NBA Finals and just what LeBron was doing and the way that they went about coming back from the 3-1 deficit. It was like a face and heel turn in wrestling, in professional wrestling. It's, now they add the good guy. It's like Hulk Hogan joined NWO, Kevin Durant joined the Golden State Warriors, and the NWO went from being this cool, sort of fun outsider to being this evil group, because by adding somebody that's just universally loved like Hulk Hogan or Kevin Durant to something that's already so great, it just somehow it flipped them heel, and I can't wait. I mean, people are going to be hating on the Warriors at every single turn. After 2 years of calling them disrespected and underappreciated, and the controversy about whether or not you can win a championship with jump shots, no one's going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Everyone is going to give their best effort to beat them. They will be under a microscope every game, every play, and that's going to be a lot of pressure. It's going to be very fun to watch whether or not they can handle it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, one of the things I just want to cover last, because we've got about 7 minutes left here, is I just wanted to talk about what's left in free agency. The cupboard is pretty bare. The Suns specifically, they haven't really made a splash. Leandro Barbosa and Jared Dudley are more character, leadership guys. What other free agent signings do you think have made an impact, or do you still see happening that could make an impact?
Well, definitely one that has happened already that'll make an impact, I think, is Dwayne Wade going to the Bulls. Obviously Dwayne Wade has been with Miami for his entire career, but going to the Bulls before Dwayne Wade got there were probably not going. I mean, they could probably still be pretty good in the Eastern Conference. They probably still would have made the playoffs, but now they're probably, I don't know, maybe a 5th to 7th seed maybe in the playoffs with D Wade. I'm not sure how good they'll be, but they added Rondo, which I thought was interesting as well. But then before Dwayne Wade got there, it was just going to be Rondo and Jimmy Butler. And now they add someone like Dwayne Wade, who's won multiple championships. I think that one is going to be, pretty telling in the Eastern Conference. I think it's going to end up shaking things up. One that, I don't know if it'll make an impact or not. It might make a negative impact. Is Dwight Howard going to the Hawks?
I knew what you were going to say.
Dwight Howard, to me, I think he is well past his best days, even though he's still kind of young. He's just had too many injuries, especially to his back. And this whole, Dwight Howard is soft because he has fun thing, I think that's starting to become true because, he's been on what, 4 different teams now? A guy like that, not too long ago, he was considered a franchise player. And now he has been on 3 different teams since the Magic, and he can't seem to get along with anybody, even though he's this goofy, smiling guy that has fun all the time. He doesn't seem to get along with a lot of people. So I think Dwight Howard might have a negative impact on Atlanta, though he is going back to his hometown. So we'll see if he's a little happier there. But
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
yeah,
Dwight in
yeah,
specific is one of those guys that he can be subtraction by addition. And when you put Dwight Howard in a place that may not win very many games, it doesn't help him be a better teammate. It doesn't help him be motivated. It doesn't help him play through the little tiny injuries and just try and push through it. The Hawks are in trouble, and I think the Bulls, you're right, have a very interesting makeup now. And let's just say flat out that both of those guys got absurd contracts. I mean, I get Dwayne Wade's getting sort of returning to the hometown discount, and Dwight Howard has just gotten paid a lot of money, so he's going to continue to get paid a lot of money. But $25 million a year for Dwight Howard, that's a lot. And in Miami to have, or I'm sorry, in Chicago now, I don't know what they're going for. I don't see the vision. I don't understand. You just took a team that had no shooting and added 2 guys who were among the worst outside shooters in the NBA. I mean, for all of Dwayne Wade's amazing qualities and scoring abilities, shooting from three-point range is not one of his skills. Rajon Rondo can't make an 18-foot jump shot. Jimmy Butler is not a great outside shooter. I mean, he has improved his mid-range game, but not a great three-point shooter. So I'm very interested to see how Fred Hoiberg's pace and space offense works with guys who can't shoot the three.
Yeah, and they basically added 2 guys that are similar to Jimmy Butler, where their best strength is slashing toward the basket. Obviously, Rondo can pass the ball like nobody's business, led the league in assists last year. But those guys, like you said, they can't shoot.
They just
Dwayne Wade has never been a good outside shooter. His game is around the basket. Rondo especially has never been a good shooter. He wasn't a good shooter when he was with the Celtics on that championship team. It's just he had so many good guys around him. All he had to do was pass it. But now, they add those 2 guys to Jimmy Butler. They're going to make the playoffs in the East because, that's not hard to do in the Eastern Conference these days. But I think they didn't commit themselves in the right direction. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think this is a temporary fit. I think Chicago will be able to make money be profitable by having Dwayne Wade there. I think it's a smart move in terms of marketing their team and him returning home and all that. It's just a great story. Chicago's one of the places in America that needs a great story and needs something to be uplifting and positivity. And Dwayne Wade is one of those people, especially after what they said at the ESPYs. That was really striking to me when Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron, and Dwayne Wade got up there and, sort of pled with other professional athletes to be more engaged, not just in their communities, but in their country, involve themselves in the things they're passionate about, fight for people who need, someone to stand up for them because you're in a position to do so. And to have just Dwayne Wade's character in Chicago, who knows, maybe Dwayne Wade is the only person on earth that can get Rajon Rondo to get his head back in basketball or to play defense. Because the problem with Rondo isn't his offense anymore. Like you said, he led the league in assists. Who cares if he can't shoot if you can dish 11 assists a game? But he doesn't play defense. So we have 50 seconds left. Why don't you tell the people, Cody, where they can find your information, your Twitter, where you're writing, and that way we'll get out of here.
Well, like I said at the beginning, writing for Valley of the Suns. That's on the Fan-Sided Network, like Kyle also writes there. My Twitter handle is at Cody_Fincher92. So you can follow me on Twitter there, and we can have some discussions if you'd like. And that's pretty much what I do on social media.
Perfect. Twitter, well, basically. Thank you for any of the people who actually listen to our inaugural preview podcast. We're very excited to be with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays is the Suns. Thursdays is the general NBA. I am Kyle Fleeger. You can reach me at Suns Debate or read what we do at valleyofthesuns.com. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Cody.